investing. That's what China does. I mean, China invests in almost all the businesses in China. They control a lot of China. That's what happened here. You have some sort of a government or some sort of a central command that control.
It's idiotic to compare anything I've talked about with China. Okay, China is two different worlds anyway. There's the rural China and the city China. The city China has plenty of billionaires, has plenty of Mercedes-Benzes. Okay, so it's, the markets are exploiting the people in China. Okay, their pretty palaces and their pretty little shiny buildings and all that other crap isn't being built for the people. It's being built by a bunch of rich capitalists. So it's a pitiful and a stupid example. Will you please argue what I advocate and not argue examples that have nothing to do with what I advocate?
What's produced, and they're also controlling how much you pay, therefore who gets what. I'm not accusing you of being a communist. I'm simply saying that what you're recommending seems like it has a lot of the characteristics that communism, embraces.
Okay, so like I said, we'll play the game. So I'm just going to call you a racist, a bigot, because everything you're advocating has a lot to do with racism and bigotry. You're advocating a birthright. You're advocating that whoever owns the legacy first owns the legacy forever. So that's obvious. It's inherently racist, right? Because the white Europeans got to the America first, so they win forever and ever and ever, right? That's the game. They just give themselves the legacy of first place, okay? And now they're able to buy a head start in every race that's ever going to be run ever again, and they can keep being the winner forever and ever. I mean, that's what you're advocating. It's racism, it's bullshit, it's stupid, it's moronic. I mean, like I said, it's much easier for me to. It's a lot harder to rationally tie me to communism, and it's a lot easier for me to tie you to monarchy, because that's what you're advocating. You're advocating birthright.
Doing everything good for the people. Everyone's equal. And yeah, maybe it's a really extreme socialist stance. Okay. I guess you could twist it.
Yeah, I guess if I was saying everybody was equal, I don't know why I have a salary that goes from $250,000 to $35,000. I wonder why that is. If I thought everybody was equal, I wonder why I sat there and created that range. I mean, it implies somehow that they are not inherently that they are deserving of equal status or equal compensation. Fucked hard.
A way that we could be socialist. I guess I just went to the further extreme. But the point is, it's a very slippery slope getting involved in socialism. I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's a slippery slope getting into the argument or the proposition of birthright. I mean, it's a hell of a slippery slope right there. I mean, that's a slippery cliff. It's not even a slope; it's a cliff.
I believe in the monarchy system. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know too much about this whole monarchy thing, because that's not what capitalism is about.
How could you not know what monarchy is? I mean, really? You went to grammar school, didn't you? You never heard of kings and queens and noblemen? You never heard of that? And the idea that they inherit ownership of the property, the lands, okay, and that they just rent life to the peasants? You never heard of that? God damn. And your version of capitalism, legacy capitalism, okay, where legacy wealth exists, is the same principle. Same fucking thing. Birthright.
But in monarchy, the rich are entitled to be rich, and the slaves work for them, type of system. And I know you're going to argue that's what we're in now. I fundamentally disagree. Everyone is involved in capitalism, and if you're successful, you'll get wealthy. If you're not, you won't. If you're productive.
No, you just said that if you're successful at what? Falling out of the right pussy. All right? And then you're going to say if you're productive. What? No, you don't have to be productive to fall out of the right pussy, do you? Did you have to earn it in the womb? I don't think you did any work in the womb to earn your birthright.
You get wealthy. If you're not, you won't. If you're efficient at producing demand or supplying for demand, you'll be wealthy. If not, you won't. if the work...
That's, you know, like I said, you just keep denying the reality of the real world. Most of the wealth in this world is held by people who inherited it. Legacy wealth. That's the way this system works. Your capitalist system.
If you do is valued by the people, you'll be wealthy. If not, you won't. That's how capitalism works. So, I mean, your whole argument is based on a false premise. You're saying...
No, yours is based on the false premise. You keep ignoring the reality that all the surplus over time, when you create legacy, means that all the surplus ends up owned by the same birthright people. Okay? They just retain ownership, okay, throughout time. And that means they control the system. That means they have control. They are now renting the capitalist system, the free market, quote unquote, to the peasants. Okay, they're not competing for ownership. The ownership is given to them.
There's a monarchy set up and nobody can get to that. I mean, I've demolished that before. Anybody is given the chance to become wealthy in America.
That's a preposterous statement. Okay, the odds are you're going to. There's a 100% chance you're going to become wealthy if your father gives you $10 million when you're born. Okay, there's a 100% chance. All right, there's a slim chance you're going to become wealthy if you're just an engineer at IBM. Okay, it's a slim chance, and there's just virtually no chance if you're born in a ghetto and you know, didn't really even have a chance to acquire the skills necessary to be competitive in your market universe where exploitation, being an exploitationist, is the requirement. I couldn't succeed in your system because I don't have the ethics to do it. I could never exploit somebody else's labor. I could never glean profit from employing somebody desperate for the money I was going to pay them. So I can't commit the first requirement. I can't even take the first step in the race you say we must run in. All right, because it's against my ethical principles. I will not consume another person to fill my belly.
Everybody is. And then people can be born with certain qualities that would maybe limit what they can do. But everyone's given the chance. It's not impossible for anyone to become wealthy.
The point isn't possibilities. The point is practical. Okay, be a pragmatist for a second. Get to the real world scenario. Okay, in the real world, it's a horribly fixed race, and maybe there can be some super horse that finds some way to fly to the finish line and actually win the race, even though all these other horses have huge head starts. But you know that's not the real world, and so what you're selling is a lie. It's propaganda. It's false, it's fake, it's phony. It has nothing to do with the real world we live in.
You know, it's not like, I mean, it's also possible for some of these 1% to lose everything and go bankrupt. It's happened before.
Yeah, and again, who pays for the bankruptcy? Who built the safety net that they couldn't fall through? Who built that? Who provides for that? Okay? The laborer, the consumer, everyone, the non-risk taker.
Multi-millionaires. I mean, you know, they went bankrupt, and they're just grinding it out now. It's happened. It does happen. And the monarchy system.
And the more likely scenario is somebody takes preposterous risks, goes bankrupt, then starts up another phony shystery business and gets away with it the second time, or maybe the third time. You know, that's the real world scenario, is that they bounce off that safety net a few fucking times, which is even more horrifically disgusting.
The monarchs would be entitled to be rich. They wouldn't have to, they would never be able to become a slave. They're just entitled to it naturally. And that's not what capitalism is about.
Yeah, well, you can keep saying that, but it's exactly the capitalism you're endorsing. It might not be Adam Smith capitalism, but it's your capitalism. You're endorsing legacy ownership of the system, legacy wealth. Okay, a legacy cheat. You just keep endorsing it, you keep not defending it.
So, I mean, you're just characterizing it as a false, you're making up this false characterization. It's really...
Yeah, well, like I said, that's just such a lousy, rotten, deceptive, cruddy statement to make. I didn't make up anything. You're the one with you're the one who hasn't defended the premise. Okay, it is a completely legitimate, logical point to make. Okay, that legacy wealth creates something similar to monarchy. It is both birthright based. Okay, it is ownership without merit. It is unearned. Okay, and you keep avoiding that fact.